Okay, welcome to this live stream here on YouTube today. And I just want to make sure that our camera is working correctly. I don't know if you can see me or not, and I think you can. And I'm changing over screens. And this is a bit of a new setup, and we're getting everything refined. We have much better sound than we used to have. So that's a big step forward. Still getting all of the visuals and everything sorted. I won't ramble on too quickly because what people tend to do is they tune out really quickly. This is a really important message today. It's called the Great Separation. I had some hesitation with coming on and sharing this because this is new information to me. It's been unfolding through me over the last week. And let me tell you, I've been on this spiritual journey for 25 years, if I go right back to where it really began. And this information is something that I have not read elsewhere. It's original information. I've read a lot of books. I've listened to a lot of teachings. I believe there's truth in all of those that I've read. However, as a spiritual searcher and seeker, I felt that there were elements that were missing. Who relates to that? And when we don't feel that we are completely aligned with spiritual truth, what do? We go searching, right? Because there's a inner void, there's a missing component. And we're searching for completion because at a soul level, our soul knows what completes us. It's a knowing, it's an inner knowing. When that inner knowing is lacking, we search. We go to teachers, we go to guides, we go to books, looking for a path that will lead home. One of the greatest spiritual truths, I've been teaching this for years, is that your inner knowing, your inner truth, is greater than anything that you can find outside of yourself. And I think that is the lesson that we're all here to learn, particularly during this great separation, or the time of the great separation, is we're learning that alignment and truth is found within, not externally. Okay? I just want to welcome a few of you before I get into this and send you some love. So who is joining us? And forgive me for looking over at my screen, but it's just my setup, the way I've got it. We have Amanda. Hello, Amanda. And we've got Patricia. Lovely to see you. It's so hard. I feel so alone. My family and daughters and friends don't believe me. I'm going to speak directly to that, Patricia, and it's a part of my message today. It's not easy for me to share this message today, I'll tell you. It wasn't easy for me to get the message. In spirituality, in life in general, us humans like the easy path. We don't like to hear about the challenge, right? We put our head in the sands often. And even in spirituality, often we get led to a place where we don't get the whole truth. We get some of the truth, but not the whole truth. Something that you're going to discover with my teachings moving forward, I'm going to be sharing with you the whole truth that I'm getting. And I'm confirming this truth through the ways that I'm learning to apply discernment. Say that after me, the word discernment. Discernment. This is really important. A thing that's lacking and has been lacking. One of the things that we often forget is to discern information. There is a lot, particularly in spiritual circles, of information coming in from many different teachers and directions. And so often we forget to discern. what I'm coming to learn is that so much of the teachings are true, right? So many books are true with spiritual information. But without the ability to discern, there might be 80% truth in that, but there could be 20% distortion. And I'm seeing this over and over as I'm asking the questions and going to this divine wisdom that's flowing and asking where the distortion lies. And it's surprising me that even in some of the greatest teachings, I thought I fixed my microphone headphones with a different size so that they wouldn't fall out, and they're still not there yet. So we will work all of this out because sound is really important. I'm trying to understand discernment. Well, I'm going to talk about it today because it's really important. But before I get into that, which will come later in the teachings, I want to talk about what the great separation is. This is spoken about in the book of Revelations. If you read Dolores Cannon's material, you'll understand it as the split. And I think there are so many different versions of truth that are out there, some great and accurate, and some are missing elements. So I'm going to give you what has come to me directly in the way it's been shown to me. And Aaron must have joined because I see, hello, Aaron. So great that you've come here. We are living in what ancients have called, wisdom traditions have pointed to as end times. What does that mean? It has been said that we're at the end of an age. Many that know astrology will know this is the end of the age of Pisces. We're moving to the age of Aquarius. Great point is, I'll go further. We're really at a crossroads. And this is the great separation. Is this just happening on Earth? Is this confined to the Earth? I've learnt recently, in the last week, no, it's not. This is happening in many different places. This goes back a long time. This is complex, and much distortion has been embedded into our teachings and wisdom traditions and books and sacred texts for thousands of years. Because the truth will always get opposition, right? Who knows that even in their personal life? If you're standing in authenticity, if you're standing in truth, who knows that there is going to be some opposition to that? Perhaps, I think it was Patricia that said earlier, when you wake up, when you have an awakening, you have people that don't understand you. There's a form of opposition through unconsciousness, right? So humanity is at a crossroads. Souls are choosing between divine truth and illusion, right? This is the time we're choosing. And I emphasize that word, we are choosing this. It is a choice. People say, well, why would there be light and darkness? Why is there good and evil? Why would a loving, divine creator create that? I asked that question. I asked that question yesterday because I was trying to put this into context to try to really understand how love would allow suffering and darkness. It was said to me that creation, and we are creation, we have been created. We have been instilled, and I'm talking about the soul, not the human body. That I will teach on later is something different. But the soul came into existence through creation by our Creator. We were not created without free will. Okay? So we were not created without free will. In order for you to truly love, you needed to have free will, because you needed for freedom to express choice. Does that make sense? If you force something on somebody, it's not a choice. It's an ultimatum. And that's not free will. That's not how free will works. So when we come into this reality, we come in with free will and choice. We can choose which path we go. We can choose the light, or we can choose distortion and deception. A lot of times when we find ourselves in deception, we do it unknowingly. We do it through ignorance. So a lot of people that we see that are working in the area of deception, it might be in politics, it could be in government, it could be in a lot of areas. There's unconsciousness often in that. That's why Jesus said, when he made this great statement on the cross, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." What was he pointing to? What was he saying? They're unconscious. Eckhart Tolle said that in The New Earth. I remember reading that. Forgive them, they're unconscious. They're not awake. They haven't had an awakening. They're in deception. They're in illusion. Now, where do you think deception comes from? I'm going to test some of you now and your knowledge. Where does deception originate from? Where does the original deception come from? Does it come from another galaxy or dimension? Does it originate in this dimension? Aaron has said the mind. Deception can be found in the mind. And many teachings speak about deception as being the ego, right? But I wonder if someone will be able to see what I'm seeing and be able to know the book of Enoch. And you are pointing to something very important. Now, the book of Enoch was not included in the canonization of the Bible, and it probably should have. In fact, I think it is a wonderful book filled with a lot of great truth, right? And I believe that this was found in 1945 as a part of those lost scrolls that were found in Nag Hammadi. Some refer to it as a Gnostic text. But what it describes is the fall. The fall that was described in the Bible, but doesn't really give us the full picture, because there's been elements that have been suppressed. Now, this did not just happen in a heaven out there somewhere. This was interplanetary. It affected many different dimensions and many different planets. See, there is a connection. So much has been suppressed. And I grew up a Christian, so although I got a little bit of truth, I didn't get the whole truth. Who grew up maybe with a Christian faith and you got sort of some of the truth, but you didn't get the whole truth, and then through your own searching that you've started to put the pieces together. Maybe it's you've found the book of Enoch, like someone had said, and that gave you a bit more insight. Here is how we know when we hear truth. This is your great compass. This is going to be a tool for you. In your heart, and this is what I was shown, you will feel a peace of warmth. If you feel heavy in the heart, if you feel resistance, that's when we apply discernment. So we have to be discerning. The reason I emphasize discernment is that there is so much information. We're in a war, a spiritual war between forces. And so when you're in a war, communication is is scattered, it's challenging. We have to use discernment to know what is truth. And your inner compass, your heart, the heart chakra, is where divinity, the divine essence, the divine presence guides you through the heart, not the mind. The mind often needs to catch up. The mind is easily confused. I think Aaron mentioned the mind before. The mind, the judgment can be easily confused. And let me tell you, I had years of, through searching, being clouded mentally from fully embracing and understanding the truth. What is going on right now is the world is shifting. It's so obvious. You don't even need to hear me say that. It is so obvious. We are seeing changes that we haven't seen in such a condensed amount of time very, very quickly. And what it's doing is it's forcing us to really make a decision. Are we going to choose the path of divinity, love, or are we going to allow ourselves to descend into deception? Because that really, if we were to surmise all the goings on, what really this is about humanity's choice. Are you going to choose truth and divinity and sovereignty? Or are you going to allow yourself to fall further into deception and illusion? So that is the split that is going on. Now, Dolores Cannon's books, someone says choose love and light. Beautiful. And love will always lead us back to home. And you know what? Let me say this as I'm moved by Spirit. We are so loved. You know, I'm being emotionally blown away this week by just how loved we all are. We were created in love, for love. Our essence is love. And there's always been such a wonderful plan. You know, when you see the big picture like I do, and you start to put the pieces together and you start to understand the big plan, you just see how much intelligence and love there is. And really, for those that are in love and walk in love and seek truth and resist deception, there is nothing to fear. You know, I was asking this. I said, well, what if I fail in my mission? You know, what if I fail? What if I don't make it? What if I fall into illusion or delusion or deception? And the message came through is that I see the end from the beginning. I already see your end. And you already made it. You came here to help awaken humanity. You signed up for this and you cannot fail. If you really step into truth and love, you cannot fail. You can't do this wrong. You will always be led back to truth and light. Yes, it's hard. Someone said, Patricia said it's hard. It's really challenging. Absolutely. And if I was to say to you that we aren't embarking upon very challenging times in history, I would be lying to you, and I won't do that. A lot of us think that we've already reached the threshold and we've entered a golden new age. Although that will come, we're not there yet. And there are things that need to play out, that have been spoken about, that have been written about for thousands of years, that are destined to play out. I asked this question as well. I said, well, isn't there choice that we have in choices. Like the future's not set in stone, right? So we're creating our reality as we go along. And that is true. But there are certain truths that are set in stone. There are certain things that have been written that won't be changed. This great shift is coming whether I like it or not. It's been predestined. It's a part of a much bigger plan that's been going on even before Earth itself. And this has to play out the way that it's meant to, because it's about choice. It's about us making a choice of what we want as a soul. Do we want to remain in the illusion and delusion, or do we want to be liberated and free? I know what most of you are choosing, the liberation and the freedom. But these times that we're in are times that are going to challenge us all. But those that walk in truth will be protected divinely. One other thing I was being shown is we're going to start to see miracles like we've never even fathomed to see, that we've only heard about. And they will become commonplace, because the time is now that they're needed in a way that perhaps we haven't needed so much in the past, right? All right, I'm just looking at some of your questions and your feedback because I want this to be engaging, so I'm looking over. Sometimes I go back to my own reality to conform. I get excited, then depressed, and then cry hard. Yeah, I feel you, Patricia, because I think what you're going through is something that we all go through. You know, I've been going through a bit of a awakening / releasing, surrendering this week, and I've had moments of absolute bliss and joy, and there have been some times I felt fear and sadness. And then when I asked, I said, why am I feeling these emotions? Because sometimes there are elements of ourselves, beliefs, parts of ourselves that we're being called to shed. Layers of illusion, layers of delusion that we're being invited to release. Now, of course, we have free will. And so it's our choice, our responsibility to choose for ourselves. You can't choose for another person. You can't make decisions for them. The only person you can choose is for yourself, right? And let's make the right choice. I mean, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help guide you through these coming years, because as you'll soon discover, our world is going to start to really, really split in ways that we've never seen before. Now, I know the last 3 or 4 years, as it has been for me, moving through the pandemic, have been some of the most challenging that we've ever faced. So we have some experience of what it is like. I don't think that even comes close to what we will have to go through. And I don't say that to give you fear. I just tell you that because I want you to be prepared. But as I said earlier, if you walk in love, if you walk in truth, you have nothing to fear. You really don't. There is nothing to fear. You know, this war, although it's playing out, has already been won. Now that's unique, because most wars, when they play out, there isn't a decided winner. It happens as it goes along. This war is different. This war has been won. But it needs to play out. And we need to make our alliances. We need to stand in our truth. So it's kind of like a play, right? And the play has been written, the movie produced, the script has gone through its final stages, but it needs to play out in real time. The performance needs to be performed, although it's preordained, although it's written, it needs to play out in real time. And that's what we're seeing, right? So your job is to remember who you are, to wake up, and to play your part according to how you decided, how your soul chose, because now is the time. Does that make sense to people? I hope that analogy, I'll try to give you as many analogies when I teach as I can to make some of these concepts easy for you to digest. And Jesus did that when he taught. He used analogy, he used parable. Although a lot of what he said, unfortunately, was misunderstood because he was trying to convey messages that were easily digestible and understood by the people of the time. However, unfortunately, with history, a lot of that has been taken out of context. But now is the time when truth and divine alignment are all synchronizing. So where things have been dark, they are going to be seen in full light now. Everything is changing. The whole reality, the whole system that we've been under since humanity's inception, we're in the final act. We're coming to the finale. And not everyone will hear. Amanda, you're right. Not everybody is going to make this decision. You know, some have, and I asked this question, I said, well, have some like myself already decided before we incarnate what our decision is going to be? And yes, there are absolutely those people that are described in perhaps Dolores Cannon's material as volunteers. Some are from this dimension, some are from other dimensions, star systems, other places to help Earth. They've already ascended into higher states of consciousness. They've already been liberated if they were enslaved by any kind of darkness. So they exist outside of this illusion, right? And so they signed up for a very challenging task, and that was to descend into this density, to come into the illusion, to forget everything they knew, to forget who they are, and to have to walk through all of this to wake up and remember who they are, right? Who's been having this? Because this is the next point I want to get to, the signs of your awakening. I want to talk about some of the symptoms. One of them is questioning your reality, a pull towards truth. You know, you go searching until you find it, and nothing will quench or satisfy you until you find it, right? So that is one of the signs. Sensing, maybe you've always had a knowing that something wasn't right. Things don't seem to be the way they are. You're not easily manipulated. You're not easily deceived because of this inner knowing, this heart space, this being that you are is able to decipher between truth and deception, right? There are two main energies in the world, and this is the first time I'm adopting this language. But there is divinity and there is deception, right? So there are two realities. There's love. I used to say love and fear, and only love is real. But I will use different terminology for my teachings. And I will say love is real. Divinity is real. And then illusion comes under the umbrella of deception. It's easy for me to describe it in my teachings because when you understand that deception is a whole system that's been going on for a long, long, long time, and it has an origin somewhere, and it's a real origin. It's not metaphoric, as some have believed, and it doesn't just come from the ego, although that plays a part, this is multi-layered, this is multi-dimensional. So there are a lot of components to that. Now, before I go on, I want to, as I said, I'm making this interactive. I'm reading some of your comments. So Patricia, I went through mourning 3 days, mourning my old self, leaving perhaps the awakening of that bliss. Yeah, well, what you've gone through, Patricia, is an awakening. And that's where the old has to fall away. In the zodiac year this year, we're in the year of the snake, which is metaphorically shedding a skin. Boy, have I been doing that. Shedding the old version of myself in order for this new version to come out that was always there but was camouflaged under the surface of the old. And I'm reading your comments here. So where did this originally come from? Well, that's the question I asked earlier. Can anyone guess where it originated from? Any being, maybe? That's a bit of a clue. A being where all this came from that perhaps we have not fully understood the bigger picture. But I'll come back to that. Amanda said, oh, you're just conversing with each other. Great. I'm so glad that you said that. Someone said Palladium. That's an interesting perspective. I'll speak on the Palladian area in another video, but that's not where, although that was affected. Someone said Satan, and not really in the sense of what religion has taught. See, this is what we have to understand. There is distortion in almost, like I would say 90% of the stuff out there, right? And this is where I'll come back to the word discernment. You might have a book that is 80% divine and truth, and there could be 20% distortion because of human interpretation, forces that want to conceal ultimate truth. So this is where we have to have discernment. Even amongst religion, right? So much of religion has hijacked the true message, right? And so I grew up as a Christian, right? There was so much distortion in almost every single denomination that exists. I would take that one step further, in probably every wisdom tradition. So much distortion, right? And without discernment, and I'm talking about like a spiritual discernment, like a wisdom that passes the analytical mind, that surpasses even the wisdom of this world, real spiritual discernment, which is a gift that you have when you wake up and when you're in alignment with divine, the divine, right? Let's not get locked into old ways of thinking and dogma. You know, Jesus didn't come to teach dogma. Jesus came to liberate and to awaken, not to condemn or to enslave or to create a religion that would ultimately enslave. Now, how do I know this? I grew up in a religion following Christ, and I was enslaved. I was enslaved with dogma and do's and don'ts and fear. And fear does not come from divinity. Fear comes from deception. So there's just an example of how much distortion is everywhere. One thing to note is a lot of people that are involved with things that we might see as deception are unaware of it, right? Who's been deceived in their life, and when they're going through the process of being deceived, they're unaware that they're being deceived. It might be someone in your life that comes in and they convince you that they love you, and then you're under their manipulation, and then you eventually wake up and realize and see what people have been telling you all the time. And then you reflect on the situation, you think, how could have I ever believed that person? And people were telling me the whole time. I've been through something like that with quite a few people in my life. I was deceived. I was convinced. I believed. Now, when you go back, and this is important to what I said earlier, there's probably a part of you that would have at one point or another felt an uneasiness, right? Something that wasn't misaligned. What is that? Soren said, me too, I have indeed. So we've got a few people agreeing, Soren and Aaron. What is that? I mentioned the word earlier. What is that inside? Sometimes in the solar plexus, exactly. You feel that tightness or heaviness. You feel it. It's discernment, right? Or our spirit that's not resonating. And from a spiritual perspective, because you are spirit. You are spirit, right? You're not able to be deceived. It's only when you allow the mind, which is a part of the program, it's part of the density. This is why when you leave this reality, you don't take the mind and the body with you, because the mind and the body itself are a part of the density. You exist beyond this illusion, this matrix reality. You're so much more than your mind and your body. You are spirit, you are life itself. And what is spirit and life? It is the very breath of the divine that you are created. You are literally breathed into existence, the breath of the Creator. Isn't that beautiful? And I'm going to get into some more specifics of that. The breath of the divine. Yeah, you are literally breathed into existence. And you are light. You are love. And that's who you are. Now, this body is a vessel, like a cup, that holds that temporarily, or locks that into this matrix reality temporarily, right? Some of people believe we actually get trapped into this, we get locked into this frequency, right? Divinity gets locked into this frequency until we wake up and realize, and then we're able to be liberated. Because we get to choose where we go, right? This is a choice. This was always about a choice. And we're here, we either volunteered to help people wake up, or for those that didn't volunteer, they're a part of this that had the opportunity to wake up. They have the opportunity to wake up. Now is their time to be free and done with this whole system, because this system, like it or not, is coming to an end. This thousands of year old system is in its final stages of being dismantled. This is not about politics. This is not about savior figures. This is not, no leader is going to save you. Now, I don't care if it's the President of the United States or a religious figure. Although people can be disruptors and disrupt the system, the Savior is not coming externally. The Savior is internally. And that's why Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you. Not out there in a distant reality, not something to be hopeful towards achievement. It's a state of being, it's a remembering, it's activating and bringing that into your reality and then freeing yourself from it. Now, although some people have volunteered to come to assist, that are sort of not in the game, but they're helping in the game, they also come in and forget who they are, why they're here, until they wake up. So as we're waking up, we're discovering, and actually more importantly, we're remembering who we are. We're remembering why we're here. Are we here just having an awakening to wake up to make a decision? Or are we here to help others wake up, to guide others to truth? So that's the question. Who has woken up? Who knows who they are at a soul level? I'm interested to hear from you. Who has, maybe it's you, Patricia, because you've shared. Let me know, Amanda and Patricia, of what you have learnt and discovered. And I'm going to take a moment to sip my water. So that I can hear and get feedback from you. And while I'm waiting there, my call to action today is it's time to choose. This is not a time to sit on the fence. The world is moving forward and every soul must choose their path. We are either going to align with faith, truth, and love, or we're going to align with fear and deception. The quickest way you're going to end up, I'll tell you how you're going to end up in deception, right? How you've ended up in deception. One of the easiest ways you're going to end up in deception is through fear. False evidence appearing real. Fear is a fast train heading towards deception. So if anything's making you afraid, if any teaching's making you afraid, and you'll feel it in here, you'll feel it in the solar plexus like someone said before, well, that's not leading you to truth and love, is it? That's why religion ultimately does not lead us to truth, because often religion is endowed with fear. They even taught us to fear the divine, which is a complete inversion of reality. The divine loving force only gives you free will, only gives you choice, only allows for you to be able to align with what you choose. There's no greater love than that. We were not created to be anything but divine, free will, of our own choosing beings that choose what we want. So this is all about decision and freedom, and for those that are in love and walk in truth, why would you ever fear? You have nothing to fear. Fear can't even operate in divine authority and alignment. Actually, when you're walking in divine alignment, fear can't even exist. Poverty can't exist. Sickness can't exist in that frequency. And before we got manipulated as beings, we were light, and miracles were a natural part of who we were. There was no decay. Decay was a part of this inversion. There was no decay. It was just life. There was no fear. There was no manipulation. All of that came later. Now, did I read that? Here we go, because I wanted to read some of your comments here. Let me move this over on my screen so I can read it. Let me just bear with me a second. Here we go. I'm still working on my setup, so I'm going to have probably another screen somewhere that I can easily see you and communicate with you better. So I'm still perfecting my setup here. I'm reading your comment, Patricia. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make out. My text is really small on the screen. I'm going to get to it next time because it's more than 1 or 2 words. It's just a bit challenging for me to read without blowing up my screen here. Here we go. I can make my screen a little bit bigger. Just bear with me. I don't like to not look at the camera because I'm not looking at you, and I'm not deliberately looking away. I'm just trying to read. Okay, Patricia, I'm 63 years already, Scorpio emotionally. Maybe I won't make it through all of this. Well, really, Patricia, let me put it back to you. What are you going to decide to do? Because the divine is not making the choice for you. No one is making the choice but you. So really, this is how free and fair, this is a divine system of justice, right? So there's no someone's doing it to me or it's not fair or any of that stuff. No, this is something, and you know, I will canvas this. We're going to see great changes, but they're going to happen over a period of years. It's going to change dramatically in, say, 5 years. The next 5 years are going to be bigger than we've ever seen before, ever in human history. But it's not going to happen overnight. So people, because of divine justice, people get a chance to decide, not in 2 moments and they're rushed into a decision. No, they really get to over time align with what they really want, what their soul wants, what they're really choosing. And so that is why we don't really have anything to fear. How am I going for time? I'm in nearly 45 minutes. You know what? I'm going to continue this unless we've got a couple of questions at the end or one question. I'm worried about this Kundalini. Sounds scary. Look, having a intense spiritual awakening, it's not scary. It's challenging. Sometimes it's felt challenging to face your own distortions and illusions. But ultimately what you're doing is you're just shedding that which no longer serves you, that which has held you bound and in deception and in fear, right? And so you're able to release it. And it may be challenging going through it, but when you move past that, you do feel so much freedom and peace and joy because you've released that which no longer serves you. Just depends on the human. Okay, you're talking with each other. So if we don't have any questions there, I might end the live stream. And of course, if you want to reach out to me with a direct question, you can do so at paul@pwilliamsofficial.com. And these teachings, I'm going to be doing a lot more. I've got so much information to share with you that I've been getting. So if this channel resonates with you and you'll feel it here, I want you to subscribe. I want you to look out for these videos. I'm not sharing anybody else's information. I'm not doing that anymore. Many of you know I used to share Dolores Cannon's material, other people's material. Moving forward, just so you know, I am not sharing anybody else's material. I'm only sharing the original material that I'm being given. I've been called to share specific information with people. It's not going to resonate with everybody. Some aren't going to like it. Some are going to unfollow and be really unhappy with it. I've already been told that. Some will find it controversial. I won't make any apologies for it. I will just share with you what I've been given. And if it doesn't resonate with you, well, it doesn't, and that's okay, because I'm not meant to force this. I'm meant to share what I've been given, and people choose what is right for them, whether they accept it or reject it. So that is sort of out of my hands as far as that. So I'm even having to step up and out of my comfort zone to allow this message to come through me, because it's not something that I would have come up with. And the more this process goes on, the more you'll see this happen. And let me tell you, all of this information, you may doubt it at first, and I may even doubt it as it's coming through me, but it has been said to me that all of this will be confirmed. All of this information is going to be confirmed through signs, wonders, miracles. So think about yourself as a part of the original little group of people. And I know we've got like 13 people on here before really this message takes flight. And it's not me. It's an assignment that I was given, and something that I'm remembering now, something I forgot for a long time. And I'm remembering, and it's making me emotional because I forgot for so long. And, you know, a part of this awakening is getting emotional sometimes, because when you remember how wonderful it should be and is and should have always been, you will feel nothing but love and joy. For those that are in love, you have nothing to fear. And for those that aren't, you still have the choice, because everything is free will. I'll see you next time I communicate. Bye.